Okay, this is a Wizard 8000, and we're going to talk about how to square the gantry arm. The gantry arm right there. So, you've got a cover on this end and a cover on that end. There's one screw that holds the cover on that you need to take off. Oops, I got to set my wrench right. It's an 1/8 inch Allen wrench. Take this screw off and take the cover off. Then take the screw off up here on this cover, and then take this cover off. Okay, if you manually move the arm, you can see maybe really carefully there's a red line on this gear tooth right here. If I move this along, we'll come to a line on the belt. Oh, there it is. So you can see that this line on this belt matches up with this line on this tooth. Okay? So if we go down to the bottom, we'll see the same thing. There's a line on this tooth right here and a line on the belt. Those must be lined up. If they're not lined up, then you're going to have to take the belt loose and you're going to have to adjust it onto the pulley and then tighten the belt back up. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so we're going to loosen the bottom belt here so that we can adjust it on the pulley down here. This is the same process that you would use for replacing a belt. So on this corner, you can see there's this angle bracket, okay? And there's this screw with this little red dot. Most of the screws that you can adjust have red dots. So if I loosen this screw, what will happen? Well, there's two springs right here, one here and one here, that are pushing this bracket out and keeping tension on the belt through this bolt right here. And you'll notice that bolt doesn't have a hex in it because you're not supposed to adjust that one. Okay, now those two springs are pretty tough, and the machine can be easily moved when you're trying to push this in to release this screw from this bracket. So what I do is I put a cargo strap around there, along here, and around the other end, so that I can tension it up and take that loose. So give me just a minute while I get it tensioned up. Okay, so now I've got this cargo strap tensioned up a little bit, so it's on here kind of tight. And now I'm going to loosen this nut right here, or this screw, sorry. So I loosen that. Now see, I can kind of push in on that, but it's really hard. So if I tighten the cargo strap up, kind of help it a little bit. Then you see how I pushed on this guy and that head of that screw came out of the slot there? Now I can lift and wiggle, lift that up. So now I've got my belt loose. So now I can come down to this end and I can pull some slack in here, and I can now move the arm whichever way I need to move it and put the belt back on so that it's in the right place. It's hard to do this with one hand. Okay, so now if I was going to change the belt, I would go down to this other end, I would take this screw out right here, and then this bracket would come out. I would take this screw loose And that would take this bracket off the belt, and then I could pull the belt through all of this and put a new one back in. Okay, so now I've got this ready to go back in the slot. And I push it down in that slot so the head engages down in there. And then I let my cargo strap go, let the tension off of it. So now this is automatically sprung back out by these springs to the right place and the right tension on the belt. So now you want to tighten this screw back up and lock it in place. Don't forget that step. Okay, so that's how you do it. The same process happens up here. Same little bracket on the end right here. Same adjustment mechanism on this end. That's it. Okay, one more thing when checking the squareness on your machine. Okay, we squared the gantry using the belts, but you see these black lines right here with a Sharpie on them? One on the extrusion, one on the table. Those need to be lined up as well. And there's also a pair of lines down here at the bottom. Okay, if those are not lined up, let's take a walk around the machine. I've got an end trimmer on this machine. You'll see these bolts with these washers. They're what hold the extrusion to the table. And if you loosen all of those, you can line up those lines and then tighten those back up. All right.